On 88.7 The River. I'm Chris, filling in for Murray Calder this week, and I am joined by Adrienne Spring, an exotic dancer who's working in the region right now. Again, welcome back, Adrienne. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello.
I wanted to talk about, first of all, there's lots more stuff we wanted to talk about in this second segment, but we don't have as much time, and I want to make sure we get through everything. I wanted to talk to you about your travel woes between the last time you were with us and now. You lost a really nice hat. But then
God.
Found it again.
Yeah, I was in North Bay. Funny story. The hat was like a really rambunctiously fluffy coyote fur. And so I got on the bus stupidly early in the morning. And, I'm tired, obviously. And so that's, always a great way to do anything. And, got off the bus in sort of Vaughan, I think it was. And what happened is that because it's a very warm hat, and so I took it off at some point and then put it on my bag. And then it must have, because the bus jolts and everything else, so it must have slid underneath the seat. And, when you're tired and you're not really functioning, and, I think what was it, 5-hour bus ride, something like that. I got out of the bus, when you grab your stuff and you don't do, as a friend of mine calls, like a dummy check. I didn't check my stuff. I had a feeling, check your seat. Didn't do it. Ignoring your gut instinct never helps. And so I just, I'm tired and I want to, get on to the next thing so I can get on the plane and get the fuck out. Oops. And bleep. And so I didn't really notice anything wrong because it was also not super cold. And so, when it's not super cold, I don't really put two and two together that, hold on a second, your ears are cold. And so I got on to the next bus, just kind of in a blur. And then, got to the airport. And then as I was getting off the airport, I'm like, hold on a second, my head's naked. Oh, shit. I forgot my hat. And my plane was like several hours away. And I freaked out. I just absolutely lost it. I was like, oh my God, because that hat was not cheap. And I was like, oh God. And so I tried to phone the company, except I discovered that they don't really have, I couldn't get a hold of their sort of direct line sort of thing to talk to them.
You can never get a human on the phone anywhere.
Yeah, it was like, press 1 for this, press 2 for that. Yeah, I just want to talk to a person.
Press 5 to give me back my lost hat.
Right? And so whoever was sitting there was probably, kind of mind boggled as to like this chick, losing her mind, next to this, power walking in circles, gesticulating like a mad woman, just like, oh my God, where's my hat? And what ended up happening is that I found that they had a depot, and then I got a taxi, got to the depot because, having traveled Greyhound, I'm like, they should have a, lost and found. So I went to the depot, popped in there, and discovered they don't have a lost and found. It's at their other depot. And I'm like, are you bloody kidding me? Like, come on, don't do this. And, get into the cab, and I'm like, I don't have the time for this. Because the thing is that I'm not from Toronto. I'm not familiar with the area, and I'd already spent, like, at that point, $100, one way. Like, it was going to be a $100 round trip sort of thing with this poor cab. And so I was just like, screw that, just send them a message with the selfie that I had with the picture of the hat. By the way, if anybody finds this, please, blah, blah, blah. Like, basically, the faster you move to recover something that's lost, the faster and the higher the likelihood of you getting it back.
Yes.
So I did every bloody thing I could, sending it to, the bus company, the depot, the whatever, like everything. And so what ended up happening is that I got a message, I think like a few days later, that, oh yes, it's been found. So what happened is that it slid underneath the seat, wasn't noticed. The bus filled up, went back to North Bay. So an 11-hour round trip. My hat wasn't, noticed, thank God, and ended up back in North Bay.
So the hat did more traveling than you did.
Yeah, pretty much. It was kind of crazy, and it ended up back, in the North Bay station. Because I phoned them, and they're like, oh, yeah, it's right here. We got it for you, blah, blah, blah. And so my friend that was working there picked it up. And so she just sent me a picture of it with a quotation of, I've retrieved the animal. Because it is coyote, so technically she did. But it's like, yeah, the coyote somehow is still roaming around, even though the legs are gone.
Something I want to make sure that we ask you about is, as an industry insider, you get to talk to a lot of the other girls working, obviously, in the industry. Why do you think girls get into this industry in the first place?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a wide variety of reasons. Like, I've got a friend of mine, one of my first sort of mentors. She jumped out of a second floor window to escape an arranged marriage. She didn't want to be part of that, and so she literally just bailed. She wanted to be autonomous, and so basically got into the business. And this is like over a decade ago. And yeah, she just basically got into the business. Made her money, super professional. When she wanted to leave the business, she left, paid for her schooling, got into being a pharmacologist. So, reliable job, basically moves anywhere, good money. So that's, what she did. I had another friend of mine that was a street kid for a number of years. I never did ask her, how, what happened up to that point.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that she basically, was basically, not, coming from, what's the phraseology for that one? It basically wasn't, she didn't come from let's go from, high school, college, university to this industry. It was basically, survival, and then, hey, this is an industry that doesn't require prerequisite. You don't have to have prior employment, prior anything, literally just come from scratch and then get into it. And if you're good, you make money, you survive, you improve. And so that's, how she got into it. With me, basically, I was in retail for a number of years, did retail management, and basically had a lot of debt that I couldn't pay off from my college, and the thing is that retail couldn't pay anything, so it was basically get into that job, and boom, that's where it pays better. And that's the thing. Now when I was after my holiday trip, this sort of round, and sort of just being tired overall, I was actually, not actually, but I was looking at sort of what can I do outside of this industry. And when you do, Google a lot of jobs, blue collar jobs, whatever, a lot of industries out there, like the pay scale is crap. Yeah. So it's like, somebody might want to leave the business, but the thing is, it pays. Like, yeah. If it didn't pay, a lot of us wouldn't be in the business. Sure. So one of the things that I've done on one of my sort of personal YouTube sort of ventings was that when a lot of prohibitionists that want to eliminate the adult industry, they want to shut us down, basically internationally, and whatever sort of either live shows, online, survival sex work, whatever. They want to eliminate it, but they don't want to, or they don't understand or want to acknowledge the fact that if you want to take that out, you need to replace it with equal or greater, economic resource. Sure. Because if you cut off our income, where are we supposed to work? If somebody doesn't give us job options, what are you doing? Like, that was one thing that was an issue with the movie Hustlers, because the company, sort of took over one of the strip clubs, and a lot of the dancers were out of work for whatever time. And I'm kind of like, if you're going to make a movie about hustlers, employ them. Yeah. Give them screen credit, because that means, hey, I was in a film, you can have an IMDb credit, you can get further work in whatever industry. but they didn't do that. And it's something that, with the amount of exploitation of my industry in film, they never hire professionals. It's always, oh, yes, an actress that wants to, take the sort of glamour and the sort of glitz and the sort of, depending on which spectrum of the industry she wants to do. But it's like, they're not hiring professionals in the industry. So number one, you've got misconceptions that are, slapped into public awareness. And then there's also the fact that the people that are in the industry for income are not getting an income from you sort of parading around or pretending to be them instead of outright hiring them. People need to work, basically.
The subject of human trafficking has become more and more prevalent across this province, this country, in the last several years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that that's a source of people coming into the industry? Do you feel awareness, or is there an awareness around the industry of human trafficking?
Basically, it does exist. Most of the women in the industry do not come from that.
Yeah.
I would basically say like 5%, like if that. But the thing is that we're the spectrum that, if you're talking about stripping, if you're talking about sex work, survival sex work, escorting, like that's a whole, huge,
these are apples and oranges.
Right. Well, not quite that, but it's basically under the umbrella of adult industry work.
Yeah.
So it's sort of different spectrums will happen in different areas. I find that is not predominantly why people get into it. People mostly get into it, to be economically autonomous, on their own. When you have somebody sort of pushing you into it, then it's not like autonomy is not the issue. You're not going to be autonomous. You've got a quota, you've got whatever, you've got, Yeah. I've encountered some individuals that are trafficked, pretty sure, in sort of different areas. And they definitely did not have their shit together. Like they were not sort of professional in any sense of the term. If you are, like, the thing that a lot of these trafficking groups don't want to acknowledge, because the fact is they make money off the business. Like, they're not giving us the money, they're making a profit off being against trafficking.
Yeah.
That's a business in itself. So basically, if you are in the business, self-aware, self-functioning, organized as a working entity yourself, you're not as likely, or you're not likely to get trafficked. It can happen if you're in, some people, I do have actually 2 friends that got basically missing / presumed dead in trafficking situations, and that we're assuming, there's not a lot of information as to what happened, but you can be in a relationship with an individual, man, woman, whatever, and what can start as a positive relationship can get toxic and can go off the rails and can become dangerous. So that is the estimation of what we think kind of what happened in those situations, because both women were very professional. But yeah, it's the thing is that if somebody's a smooth talking, mofo, then it's like, it's extremely difficult for people to assume that this person that you're dating is going to be a problem, individual. You generally don't know that until down the line. Another thing that I have seen, and this is what I have noticed, is that girls that are more vulnerable to predation come from backgrounds of broken or dysfunctional families, unfortunate, societal or communal environments. And actually a friend of mine from Eastern Canada was mentioning that a large amount of trafficking actually happens in schools. So basically high schools and elementary. So that is something that whenever these anti-trafficking groups go after by industry, they are not addressing at all the fact that, people or kids or youth from a lot of, dysfunctional backgrounds in high school, that's where they get trafficked. So, because a number of the situations where I've overheard, the girls basically started in like more survival sex work, or sort of, oh, that's a different terminology for that. It's more sort of gift giving or resource accumulation sex work, I guess you could say. Basically from like 13, 14, 12 years old. Sometimes. 13, 14, 15, something like that. But the thing is that it was in schools.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when parents either they're dysfunctional, not at home, not parenting, or they're at home, not so much, but they're working full time. Yeah. So, either one or both parents, or either that, there's alcohol abuse, drug abuse, whatever. So it's like if a youth or teenager doesn't have a solid family background, that is a large enabler for people to be in more vulnerable situations. Like if you don't have a good sort of stable kind of mental association with work, with emotional backgrounds, if you crave sort of acknowledgement, if you crave caring, or not care, well, I mean, who doesn't, but if you crave kind of a family environment, and you're more vulnerable to somebody that can smell that out and sort of reel you in emotionally, because they know they can smell that you're vulnerable. And that's something that, a lot of these trafficking groups don't really address. They're trying to shut down adult industry or adult, in venues, but it's like you're not dealing with the root issues at all, because there's no money in that. Because that is a huge, that would take a lot of money to deal with that. Mm-hmm. Like there's no, a lot of low income, unfortunate neighborhood, fucking Winnipeg is a huge thing. The Halifax, whatever, like a lot of poverty, a lot of vulnerable communities, governments don't want to deal with. Communities, oh, we don't want this on our doorstep. Oh, we don't want this drug addict here. Oh, we don't want this here. You don't want you don't want the symptom, but you're not dealing with the problem. Sure. And that's fundamentally, I think, what is a lot of the issue with the trafficking, is that they're trying to skim the top without dealing with the issue as a whole. And that's why it's not going to go away unless they actually deal with that and get their heads out of the concept of profit. That's the main issue.
We're running out of time. I want to ask you, though, where do you see yourself in, say, 5 years?
I don't know. I'd like to be film producing. Not possibly, but like probably doing more, radio stuff. I'd like to do more film production. I've got a few kind of concepts that I'd like to do. I've got a few sort of small film crews. The fun part is funding, because I've got a few sort of projects of specific relevance that I think need to be addressed. So we'll see how that goes.
Excellent. Thank you so much again for joining us today. And hopefully we get you back in the next time you're in the area.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone, for listening. It's Town Hall on 88.7 The River, local radio at its best.
Right.